You get a 1% tax break if you vote.
Yeah,
I can't.
exactly.
Oh my! You see what I'm saying?
I'll do that. I'll vote on that for
For
sure.
Like-
sure.
Well, appreciate you guys for joining. 3 kids, Dion, we got to get moving for you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's my pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're no set framework today. We're just going to talk all things NFT, talk all things bad people, and anything else that you guys want to talk about.
Let's do it.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks for jumping on. We know that everyone's busy here building, especially during these times is the most exciting time to build and connect. And can you tell us a little bit about your origin? I don't even know when you guys got started, how you got started, when you got started, how you guys met.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the bad people journey has been fascinating. I'll give you just a quick high level on my background and how we got there. I was a major label recording artist in a boy band through all the 90s.
Oh.
And then I transitioned to the songwriter for artists and television and film, and did that whole thing for a very long time. And so entertainment and music is in my blood. But I caught the entrepreneur bug pretty early on. In fact, on tour, I just kept having these ideas of things I wanted to spin up. So when we got home off tour in '99, I started my first business, and it was a computer repair business. So I basically go on site, small businesses, and help them. One of the biggest problems people had back then was getting Macs and PCs to talk to the same printer. It was a big deal. So I was like, cool, I got lots of business. It's $50 an hour. I'll run around doing all this stuff. And that was my first foray into business ownership. And then from there, I just kept kind of failing forward. But I always had that art thing in me, design and brand and messaging and music. And it was always in there somewhere. And so eventually I started a creative agency. And that was the first iteration of Bad People. And so I went around branding and telling stories of small business owners. And I focused on the humans behind the business. Figured that was a kind of a gap in the market. Everyone focused on, I have the best pizza and I've got the best dry cleaning place. And I was like, yeah, but what about the stories behind the business, the families that started it? Let's talk about that and make you guys a local hero in your market. And that business did really well. We grew that to a team of 20, but it was very idiosyncratic to me. So if I wasn't in the room to interview clients and kind of pull out their stuff and their story and figure out how to shape it, the business really couldn't scale. And so transitioned out of that, and I had some app ideas. So I went into the app space for a little bit, and got my first venture-backed tech company. It was a private white label system, sort of like Uber for high-end limo companies. So I did the UI UX myself. I hired a dev team, and went out and got funding, did that whole dance, which was really fun. And then had a little tiny baby exit about 2.5 years into it. And when I say baby, it was very, very tiny, but it was just the experience of going around and taking VC meetings and doing that whole thing. So that leads us to Bad People. So along the way, I was like, listen, I love creative. I love starting things. I love the startup kind of ecosystem and playing in there, but I don't want to run one single startup or tech company my whole life. I'm too much of a serial entrepreneur and an artist at heart. So said, why don't we spin up a venture studio where we go out and bring everything I've learned over the last 30 plus years of being an entrepreneur and bring funding and advice and guidance to other people building things we like. So we started that adventure, and our first investment was a company called High Def, which is a AAA gaming studio run by some pretty big hitters. They got a deal with Snapchat right now doing their Bitmoji AR dance game. And then we're coming out with our own AAA game that we've been working on for about 2.5 years. So that was our first big investment. And then I found Web3, and that was in October of last year. And it was sort of like, for me, it was I call it like the nerd's paradise. It was everything. It was gaming, it was art, it was tech, it was music, it was community. And then you add this layer of like transparency and authenticity. And I was like, what is happening? How have I not heard about this? And I told my wife, I was like, honey, I have to go all in. This is the perfect place for me. Some of my biggest complaints with Web2 is it's so centralized and controlled, and there's gatekeepers and people that can't get in the game for a variety of reasons. And so I said, you know what? Let's pivot our entire venture studio and make it Web3 friendly and look for founders and companies building cool shit, excuse my language, in Web3. And so that could be, tools, picks, shovels, could be entertainment folks, could be AR, VR, AI, gaming, whatever it is. Let's go on a hunt for the right projects. And so met Jay at NFT LA, and we connected. When you find a human that just fits with your core values and the vibe is right. And so I was like, dude, do you want to play with us and come experiment and invest in culture, and let's do this. And so he came on board to support as an advisor and a member and investor. And so that's what we're doing, man. That's kind of where we're at now. Now we're looking and scouring the planet and meeting people to find the right humans to back, including some of our own ideas that we'll be spinning out of the nest at some point as well.
Cool. Super cool story. I'm just going to have Jay just intro himself really quickly. And might I add before Jay starts, you definitely have a voice. I'm not saying the boy band in the 90s, but you're definitely a performer, a singer. I could listen to your voice all day long. And I'm married. Do you run a podcast? Do you run a podcast, Dion, or something like that?
I don't. My wife and I are talking about it. We've got all the equipment of spinning up a little husband and wife thing here. So it's cool. It's in the works, but thank you.
Cool. Yeah, I can get started as well. Yeah, my story is more so kind of the traditional tech route. I started early days on the marketing side. So did marketing strategy, did kind of media planning for some big brands such as Honda and Acura. And that's sort of where I wanted to pivot to something that you can build from the ground up. At the time, there was a few opportunities that I had around Twitch and Snapchat. Ended up taking the Snapchat route as Twitch had already at the time been bought out by Amazon. And yeah, was employee 200, really hit the ground running there, did anything between pitches to sales, pitching sales and talking to brands, did everything from trying to spin up operations, did everything in terms of, optimizing campaigns and really servicing advertisers. And did that for many, many years, went through IPO and, leading a team now. But yeah, there was something where I've always been a sneaker and art collector. So seeing the first time, and Dion and I sort of started in NFTs around the same time in October, November, but my first mint actually, and thankfully now this is a community where I'm deeply embedded in, is CloneX. Been a huge fan of Murakami. And yes, seeing this project really blossom and having alignment with some of my interests was amazing. And yeah, did kind of an all-in approach as well, fully committed to understanding the space, understanding what Web3 enabled for everybody as a community, as a culture, as just all the capabilities and opportunities that it really allowed, and went all in and committed to going to NFT LA. I went to an Azuki event, community event. I went to the Artifact event in New York, went back to New York for NFT NYC. So really embedded myself within the community. And even now, I just came back from LA Tech Week, which was a great experience, meeting different Web3 individuals. I think the community still is very early days. The community is very tight knit. So still meeting people who are trying to find their place, trying to push the space forward. So that's kind of where it all came about. And obviously meeting Dion at NFT LA, I think we're both aligned as like kind of fate, right? With meeting an individual that aligns with your values and really wants to push the space forward. And now, right, like all I really care about is no one has the right or wrong answers per se, but just experimenting, being true to yourself, but being a good human, and providing value and developing things and seeing where the space takes going forward.
Cool. Super cool story. I was at NFT LA. I could have been part of the team. I didn't meet you guys. I don't know what I was doing.
We could have met, yeah.
I was at the wrong meetings. I don't know what's going on. But cool that you guys got together.
At the time, actually, I was more embedded within the Azuki community. So I wouldn't have even have met you because at the time I didn't really invest so much time into the community itself. But I think NFT LA was kind of that event where I was like, oh, wow, there's a lot of cool people that I'm very aligned with, and I got to go even deeper. So yeah, at the time I was Azuki, but very deeply in both communities now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Community that I've seen is the main thing. Obviously, you guys know this. Dion, yourself, you've been in since October last year. Is
Yeah.
there anyone that stands out or anything that you absolutely love? You know, me and Jay are pretty biased. I mean, you can see, but you know, what's an NFT that you like and enjoy?
Yeah, good question. So it's funny. Jay makes fun of me because if you look at my wallet, you'll see that I have a major degen disease. At least I did, you know, early on, and so I was just
It's still in
investing.
there.
It's still in there. I keep him in there as a reminder of the pain of making better decisions. But I got excited and bought a bunch of projects, and some that stand out to me, Psychedelics Anonymous. I minted that project and been diamond handing that since then. I really like what they're about, focusing on mental health and providing services to users. My favorite one is this guy, my doodle.
Doodles. Oh, love doodles.
Yeah, I love the doodle. In fact, right now it's probably a ridiculous buy time in my personal opinion. So we're looking at that. What else do I like? Degen Tunes, I like them. I'm a fan of what they're doing over there. V Friends, guys, I like V Friends. I like what Gary's doing. I think he's got obviously a solid community, and he's got a ridiculous track record of success. So I like to back projects with teams that have a track record of success in the thing they say they're building. So, you know, if you're saying, oh, we're developing a game for our community, but you've never done a game before, I'm a little less excited about that. I try to find projects with credible founders and docs teams. So those stand out. I could go on because there's a bunch that I love. Some I love just for art. Some I love because it's fun. It's a fun community. Some I love, like Venice Music, for example. I love what they're doing. They're experimenting with, you know, how to bring more transparency and monetization opportunities for artists without owning their IP. So they're experimenting there and how to support the music community. But there's a bunch, man. Those are some that come off the top of the head.
Awesome. There's right to your point. There's so many NFTs and the meta changes on a weekly. Are there any, because you guys are dived into music, culture, art, maybe even fashion and gaming, it would seem.
Yeah.
Is there any that you look for as like a beacon for you when you're looking into projects to invest into or you're self-launching?
Good question. I mean, for us, we have a particular thesis, and it's not much different from Web2 investing, where obviously we look to back the jockey first. So who are the people behind it? What kind of team are they? Are they kind, smart, hardworking people? Are they passionate about what they're doing? Are they really trying to solve a problem for the space? Are they truly committed to actually serving, collaborating, and listening to the people that they're trying to transact with, the community? Those things are important to us. And you know, what's their business model? A lot of folks will launch these projects and their only monetization strategy is mint and secondary. You can't build a business off of secondary. You've got to have other things that you're trying to do. And so we look for those kinds of things. We have a little manifesto on our website on badpeople.la where people can download it and check out kind of how we evaluate projects and just the basics of what we look for. I know Jay, he's got more of like the research and data mind than I do. So he looks for some things also. I don't know if there's folks that you look at for us as an example of people we like to model after or at least watch.
Yeah, I would say, you know, not only that in terms of understanding kind of Web2 and how it correlates to a successful track record for a team, but I think there's, even in Web3, there is sort of somewhat of a formula that I've seen that drives success. Obviously, one being the team, right? Who is the team behind some of these projects? How are they invested into Web3? How do they drive those conversations, right? Perfect example is, you know, teams like Artifact, right? 3 very visible founders that are trying to push the space forward. Azuki, great backgrounds from that team. Even Goblin Town, which is new, right? That didn't happen by accident. I think oftentimes people are like, that was a fluke, that was luck, but behind Goblin Town is a marketing agency, Truth, right? That has experimented in this space and are driving those kind of conversations forward. So that's sort of some of the things I look for is similarly, right? Has the team behind it built businesses in the past? Have they been embedded within those communities right now? And what are they doing? What are they experimenting with? Is it gaming? Is it art? Is it, culture? Combination of those factors, I think, is what leads to success behind a project.
Yeah, I saw that on your download your manifesto, Dion, and I saw that you guys are already working with two projects that I'm not sure if they selected you or you reach out to them or they reach out to you. Could those be some good examples? I know that they're music focused in a way as well, right?
Yeah, those are good examples. I met the dope ones in Art Basel. Is it Art Basel or Art Basel? Basel, isn't it? Basel is yeah, it's got to be.
I don't want to correct you because I may be wrong. I went to the Miami and Hong Kong one, so I should know this.
So I met them there, and I was walking around their booth, and they just had this thing, this vibe. They were so cool and friendly, and they were making eye contact with people, and they had good music coming from them. They had this really dope vibe coming out of this. So I spent time with Scotty, the one of the founders over there, and we hit it off, and I got his vision of wanting to help support artists and find and experiment with new ways to spotlight up and coming artists and give them chances without owning their IP. And I'm like, dude, I would love to participate. And so I joined them as an investor and a partner. And we were going to launch in February. We're going to drop the collection in February. And we thought, you know what? I think we should wait. Let's build the business first. Let's go out and actually provide value to the community and actually start having some use cases of what we say we want to do. Let's go prove it first. And so we've been doing that ever since. And Scotty and his team down there in Hong Kong have been doing a lot of stuff in Asia with artists, taking up and coming artists, giving them opportunities to open up at music festivals, getting them on a mixtape, getting them distribution, and just growing the brand. And so we're getting close to the point where we're ready to say, okay, let's build a community and show them what we've been doing for artists behind the scenes. So those ones, I'm very excited about those guys. And then Roland Lifestyle is celebrating and honoring the iconic Roland brand and their contribution to culture and music since the 80s. And so a good buddy of mine has the global license to do lifestyle products for Roland. He's the only one in the world that has that. And we got to talking, and he was like, I want to experiment. I've already got some NFT art and some ideas. I was like, dude, let's do a drop together. And so Bad People came in to invest and help advise and guide the project. And that's more about being a part of history and celebrating the cultural impact of this company, and in particular the 808 drum machine, which has been on more hit records than any other drum machine in history. And so we're going to do a drop and give people access to some of the really cool things that Roland Lifestyle is doing. They're doing iconic premium collabs with crazy companies I can't even mention right now, but we'll give holders, do a really small collection size and give holders access to some of that stuff. So like cool merch and apparel and collabs and events and stuff done at the top of the food chain with, Roland's a $100 billion company, been around for 50 years. And we get a chance to be a part of that. So it's an honor, and we want to do it right. So we're taking our time to make sure that whatever we deliver is premium and that we can execute on the utility at a really high level. And that's what we're doing. So we'll be dropping that here in a few weeks, something like that. We're doing a big event in LA on a 909 day, which is an official kind of Roland celebration for their 909 drum machine. And we'll drop our collection somewhere around there. So those are the two companies that we're focused on at the moment. And yes, they are music and culture based. And then we've got some stuff behind the curtain that we're working on, some software plays and some founders we think are really building and innovating in Web3 on the tools side.
Right. I saw that in your manifesto, the shovels and picks you guys are developing, which is much needed to onboard new users because it's very difficult right now for the average person. And
we want to get people in like that. The thing that's crazy, man, is you've got the whole idea of Web3 is equality and access and decentralization. But what I notice is that there's still a small group of people that are kind of running things in Web3 to some degree. These are the people that that already had the resources that are coming in and just buying up companies left and right. And that worries me because over time, we're going to have these, a handful of folks who dominate the space again. And what does that mean for the people? What does that mean for the average cat that wants to get involved in the space? So what Jay and I and the rest of the team of Bad People, our mission is let's get in here and help support and find companies that are making tools so that folks can onboard quickly and easily and lower that barrier to entry so we can get more people in the game while the opportunity is still there. And I think we've got, a few years of runway to do that. But just imagine when the big dogs get in and they start buying things, then you start getting the gatekeeper effect. And that's what we want to help prevent.
Definitely. There's so many people I know that want to get into the space, and those hurdles do exist. And I find that the new generation, I'm an 80s baby, so I might have heard your songs if you were in a work group. And I see that they are more keen, or they're more open to alternate investments, starting their own business, starting their own brand. That's being more relevant, more so now than ever before. Or Jay, I'm sure you see that snap all the time. There's so many individual brands being built out there, and not having, support from companies like you, because I see that you guys are not only venture capitalists, but you're incubating also, right?
Correct.
You have a place. Can you talk about that a little bit? I know you have a location, and you guys are offering
so
services there.
we haven't launched a location yet. We're still looking for the right place and waiting for the right time. We don't want to take on too much at once because there's so much experimentation happening. We do have a lot of capital deployed already into a handful of the projects we've already mentioned. And we need to see a little bit of that come back before we open up our lab, so to speak. But we're very excited about that. That'll be a place where portfolio companies can come work and hang out and network and learn. And then we're going to bring kids, like, young people that might not have an opportunity to be exposed to this space, and we'll bring them into the house and let them sit with our teams, let them sit with the devs, let them sit with the designers, let them see all the different aspects of Web3 and where they could fit in, so they can go back home to their communities and be like, yo, I just learned about this new technology that I can be a part of. And they can bring their friends, and we'll have, fireside chats and opportunities to just expose a whole generation of underserved youth to get them in the game. So that one we're all very passionate about. We're going to take our time and do it right. And I would say we'll probably launch somewhere around Q1 of next year, something like that. That's our goal or our target.
Super cool. Yeah, Q1's right around the corner. Where does the time go?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there's so many problems in Web2 that you mentioned. Is there any that you've seen a blatant, hey, this would be a great fix, with Web3? I imagine that in my mind, my perfect world, that everyone's going to be on Web3, right? Every business is going to have it. Have you seen, where's the biggest issues that you've seen, whether it be in your industry that you've been a part of, or I'm just looking at companies?
Jay, do you want to take that first? I need to unplug my Alexa. My family thinks that they can talk to me right now.
Yeah.
So give me a second.
There's so much opportunity in my mind. I think anywhere or any industry where there's sort of kind of middlemen that are unnecessary, I think are ripe for disruption. So Dion can expand into music, for instance, right? A lot of middlemen in between there. I think when you look at the history of what tech has provided, right? Like look at, for instance, most recently, Tesla, no dealership, right? Direct to consumer auto, no middlemen with dealerships. I think that's innovation, right? I think that's something that isn't talked to as much, right? Because Tesla is sort of driving it in terms of electric cars, and that's kind of the forefront of their innovation, right? But they also innovated in like direct to consumer for auto purchases, and that's innovation. I think that's sort of why I'm so excited for Web3. Is not only the community aspect, not only about the ability to have royalties for art, right? Something that's truly innovative, very low overhead costs in terms of that ability to do that, but just anywhere that gives you direct access to people and values is what excites me. So kind of ambiguous of a response, but I think there's just so many areas that can be improved upon with that ability and verifiability that that's what excites me.
Yeah, I agree. I would add that in general, what I love so much about Web3 is the idea of, if I say that I'm serving community X, whatever that is, let's just say that I want to go contribute to inner city youth programs in the hood for Black and Latinos. Let's say that's my angle, right? A lot of people say that, but really what it is they are, Jason mentioned this before, and I thought it was such a great point. It's really masked as that, but they're really extracting value from the hood. They're not really, nothing's actually ever changing. There's no real transparency on what's happening, especially when you go into the nonprofit space. There's so many ways they can bury fees and admin, and they're paying their cousin, and they're doing all this mess going on. What I love about Web3 is it's an opportunity to have transparency, because you can't hide on the blockchain. And it gives us a chance to go in and say, okay, we're going to have a two-way collaborative relationship with the community that we're saying we're serving, whatever that is. So these little micro communities, token gated, that are laser focused on a particular thing, whatever that is, that unifies a group of people, right? 2, 3, 4, 5,000 people in one community that are all, their incentives are mutually aligned, and it's two-way. So you don't have gatekeepers at the top, a team of 3 founders and a big VC behind them making decisions saying, we're here to help the community, but they're really not. Now the community is a part of it, because not only are they holders, investors, but they also have a say in the governance of what happens with that particular project. That idea is what gets me fired up. That's what makes it all worth it to me. Is imagine the change that can happen if you've got these micro communities that are laser focused on a particular problem or particular solution, so to speak, and they all are incentivized to work together. And it includes the people that they're serving, not just this little silo of people who don't even have boots on the ground, who don't really understand what it's like to be that 14-year-old kid in the hood who's struggling with these particular issues, who doesn't have access. And you're bringing access, but also he or she and his family and the community get to contribute to how they deploy their services and what that looks like. And they work together. Oh my goodness, man. My mind just goes wild on the possibilities. And you can apply this to anything. You can apply it to music. You can apply it to television and film and tech and banking, and it can go anywhere. And so that's the stuff I'm interested in exploring. Ways to take out middlemen, ways to involve the community, ways to have two-way collaborative, mutually incentivized projects, products, services. Yeah, I could keep going. I get fired up about that.
No, I see you're super passionate. Are you going to run for governor soon?
You know what? I think we could be way inside Web3 and leaving some of those old systems and to do what they do, because personally, they're just so, I'm not taking a political position on anything, but they're just so broken that I would rather focus on how can we innovate inside of Web3 and let those systems do whatever they do, because it's a problem.
No, you brought a very interesting point, which I didn't think of how Web3 is going to be deployed in the future with community voting and DAOs and how that's all going to play out. Can you imagine, like, should we lower California state taxes and then the biggest token holders vote on that?
Right?
That's like just crazy stuff that, yeah.
Dude, think about how that would change the game, where the people actually are voting and it's transparent. It's not like they're saying, oh, the votes are in and here's what happened. You just got to trust that actually happened. The people actually get to speak and actually get to weigh in on the governance. It's incredible. And I also know that threatens a lot of systems, and it threatens a lot of people with a lot of money and a lot of influence. And so it's going to take some time to figure that out. And I'm hopeful that there'll be a bridge between the two systems so that they could somehow we can find a harmony. And maybe I'm naive thinking that we're all going to hold hands and sing Kumbaya one day in Web3 with our VR headsets on.
That's interesting. I never thought about this. We're turning into NPR now, where every individual may get like a voting token. That's it. That's all you get, just one. But it's to you, Jay. That's it. No one else can control that vote but you. That would be super fascinating. There's what, 50 million of us here in California, or less?
100%.
Oh,
that would be a really cool experiment, because it can all happen in real time, right? We're waiting, hours and hours for the votes to be counted, and even then there's recounts on all those components. But just imagine, this is the power of the blockchain, where you can just do it instantly, verify it, transparency, and you can't erase it, so you can't go back and scrub the history of your votes, right? There's so much there on the tech side that
I think
we haven't even seen yet.
Guys, we just created see, this is what I'm talking about. Like, this conversation, this is what our little lab, our house would be for. Like, we would take conversations like this that we're all like, that's cool, go back to the lab and have and start building something, start building some sort of prototype or MVP and get it out in the community and see what people think. Imagine that kind of voting opportunity where, yeah, it's not official because it's not tied to our official political system, but people can see like, yo, this community has, 1 million holders and the votes are on the blockchain and you can't hide it. And here's what these 1 million people said. And everyone would have to be KYC'd and all that so that it would be legit. But that would change the game. Like, you said this, but we have 1 million KYC, totally transparent on the blockchain votes saying something different.
Just
We might
imagine
get
airdrops for voting too, right? There's no.
Well, I didn't think about that.
What would
You
what
get a
would
tax
that
break.
look like?
You get a 1% tax break if you vote.
Yeah,
I can't.
exactly.
Oh my! You see what I'm saying?
I'll do that. I'll vote on that for sure.
Like,
sure.
I'm not
I
voting,
love
but
it.
if I get tax breaks, okay, all right, fine. I'll
Right?
vote. I'll vote. I'll vote.
Yo, that's incredible. Little POAP when you show up at the voting booth. Oh man, that's crazy.
Wow. Yeah, I hope that the adoption comes up, not like immediately, but I hope it comes, because we're still at that forefront time where, we're like 1996, and before even the .com bomb, I would say this is so early that we don't know how it's going to play out. And but I'm just talking to you guys.
Yeah, and that's how I explain it to people too, right? I think oftentimes people are scared or worried to at least explore the space, but how I compare it, it's sort of the early days of the internet, right? There are scams. There are so many different things that drive confusion. But the people that stuck through and stuck in it and innovated and pushed the space forward. And there were so many companies that survived the .com boom, right? The Amazon, Google, and so many others that are now, billions and billions in cash reserves, trillion-dollar companies, right? Those are the ones, right? And that's why I would hope that anybody who's curious about Web3, curious about the space, just spend your time listening to podcasts like Bankless, Unchained, and all these podcasts that are more educational. You don't need to dip your toes in per se, right, with investing, but just try it, explore it, and be cognizant of what's going on, because again, this is potentially a once in a generation opportunity, and we should seize that all as entrepreneurs, as investors, as just people who love to experiment and drive innovation. I think this is an amazing opportunity for people to explore.
Agreed, man. I tell people the same thing. Like, this is your chance to get involved and find solutions. And what's so cool about Web3 is community. You hear community over and over and over again, but there really is a community of really cool people that want to work together and help each other. So if you're just getting in it and you're learning about it and you have some ideas, there are people that will work with you and help you build stuff. Bad People's one of them. But you go to these events and you meet people and everyone's like willing to back each other up. And it's fascinating. I've never seen anything like this before, where you meet someone at an event and like, what are you working on? And what are you working on? Oh, cool. Let's get together. Maybe I can help you. Maybe you can help me. And because everyone knows that we're pioneers, we're all early pioneers. So supporting the next person benefits the entire ecosystem.
It just actually, that same example that you just listed happened to me this past weekend. Actually, Saturday I went to Air House in the Hollywood Hills, and a lot of people there weren't really big into Web3. It was mainly a AR VR type of event, but I actually met somebody who is experimenting with AI, and that's something I want to play around with, and I want to do it more, and like, can I implement that with my NFT brands, and how do I leverage AI to change my NFT or do a couple of interesting creative things on the NFT side? And he's mainly doing it to explore AI, and he doesn't really know about Web3, but he was curious about how that operated. So there's already shared learnings and knowledge, even though one individual may not be in Web3, is curious, and I'm heavily in Web3 but don't know anything about AI. There's like a synergistic way for us to operate together and share knowledge. So perfect example of that, Dion.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. And a last stretch I'm going to make is there's an appetite for investment with this new generation. I'm not sure if I'm making it up, but I'm seeing it, especially with the advent of NFTs. We saw that the new generation just kind of poured a lot into it. And then we see companies like Moonbirds with Ryan Carson, who was he the CEO of Moonbirds, and then started his own 121G fund. And now he's holding Shark Tank-like spaces to invest. And what I'm seeing further now is that there's other companies like Ryan in a smaller facet, but they're kind of sharing and democratizing that. And we're entering into gray areas here, but they're looking to share the upside with the community through tokenization. And I imagine that's something that people are, one, interested in, and two, something that maybe Bad Peoples can do in the future also, where we can come in and put our money where our mouth is and get started with you guys, and looking at cool stuff happening. And so, yeah, that's just something super cool that I've seen happen in the space. And I'm like, wow, now that younger generations are tuned into this. This is something that will take on its life of its own in terms of shared, not only interest, but like monetary value upside. That could never happen before, you know?
That's right.
It wouldn't be as transparent. And then you get what you've been through these, right? You go through these fundraisers and you get watered down and you don't even know where your investment is at the end of the day. But with tokens, with NFTs, that's totally transparent and possible.
100%, man. Yeah, and you're right that this is something bad people we've been talking about internally, and opening up for other folks to get involved. Like maybe folks that want to deploy some capital in the space, but they don't have the acumen or they don't have the knowledge, but they want to play in it. We have a lot of friends kind of circling around saying, hey, when are you guys going to open up the fund for outside investors so that we could participate and kind of mitigate risk? They want to lower their risk by investing in people that are in it. And so, yes, that's definitely something in our roadmap, so to speak. We're considering that now and looking at how to structure it and what it would look like. But as of right now, we're just keeping it private for now.
Yeah, and this is sort of what I appreciate about what you're doing as well, with these podcast educational components, right? I think I'm oftentimes worried about bringing my friends and family into the space because there's so much you need to learn around security, how not to get scammed, don't click on links. Discord is its own beast, right? Twitter has hundreds and hundreds of conversations, right? So I think any way in which we can continue to educate and drive these conversations or provide resources where there are already experts embedded within the space that you can then, put a little bit of capital in to experiment and get value out of that, knowing that there's like a group of individuals that are experts. So anything around that, but I think there's still obviously a lot of work we can do around education that, I've been seeing more and more people really own up to and being accountable for and having those conversations, which I think is awesome to see.
Yeah, I think it's getting easier. And I'm seeing that in Web2 now, where they started the democratization, Masterworks, for example, of art, right? And then there's one called Rally Road, which Gary Vee's investor into, and they did that with exotic cars. Because there's these high barrier to entry alternate asset classes that the super wealthy get to invest into. And then Web2 actually is doing the education part that we're talking about. And now there's data where those investments have outperformed like S&P for the last 15, 16 years. And it's like documented. We're so early here that we can't say that about Web3 NFTs. But I think I'm just echoing what you're saying, Jay, is that there are those companies out there and us teaming up with them and offering, counterpart and progressing what they're already offering is probably important because I think there's an appetite for it. But there's a steep learning curve. So as much as we want things democratized, I personally wouldn't mind something centralized at times.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. It's sort of like you want, I like the centralization when it comes to like the security and the safety and the accountability side of things. If something goes wrong, you got someone you can go to talk to that will take responsibility for it. But it's a double-edged sword. It's like, what do we want? Do we want that freedom of decentralization and ownership? It's tricky, man. It's really, really tricky. I'm still on the fence about that in certain use cases. There's certain places where, I see people complaining like, oh, I got rugged by this thing and I need a refund. And I'm like, dude, that's not how it works. There's no one to go to. Oh, I sent my ETH to the wrong place and MetaMask isn't helping me. And that's the pros and the cons of totally owning your assets and being decentralized, right? But the downside is a lot of people are going to get hurt while it's the wild, wild west. And so folks like you, Real Talk Fire, that are bringing awareness and education and, having these conversations so people can learn before they deploy any capital, to me is important. In fact, that's something that I want to say right here on your show for the first time, is that bad people's interested in investing in education in this space. Folks like yourself that are educating, training, and providing value like this, I'd be very interested in discussions about some sort of a platform or a place where people could go that's trusted and vetted, where people can learn all the things. So I'm interested in that for sure. It's important. I want my mom in the space at some point. So I want her to be able to go somewhere and like learn, but there's no way. I'm not even setting her up with MetaMask. Nothing right now. Mom, just go watch some videos.
Yeah, there's definitely benefits. We saw with 3AC, right? They were not transparent. They toppled the whole entire crypto market. Am I right? And there's definitely a learning curve to any asset class that you invest into, and that's what I think that people's is where I can learn from, because you guys have been through the A through Z's of entries, VC fundraising, and exits, where the average Joe, my name being Joe actually, and then the millennials and Gen Z who are on TikTok and Twitter, and they're coming onto the NFT space, and they're almost like a early stage venture capitalist without the education of what to look for, what to do, and how to exit by investing into these NFTs. And that and I say that because that's how I saw myself coming into the space. And where I wanted, a piece of a pie, the best thing I could do is just buy a token, right, or an NFT of it. But I think companies like you, and I interview another group called Visionary Studios. They're doing it specifically for the Solana space. They are offering education, like you said, in onboarding people through a token metric, and now I wouldn't say safeguarding their funds, but at least it's more transparent. And I think that's super important. And I think that you guys are doing a great job, just being out here. And I look forward to what you guys would do. Because just hearing you talk about, was it local youth in LA, and then education is something that I don't hear much in the Web3.
It's important, man. It's critical that we get the young folks in it and teach them and show them the opportunities, because there's a lot of people that are going to get passed up on this opportunity if somebody, or if we don't start taking responsibility for it. And so that's one of the things that we want to take on. We want to be cause in that one. And that's part of leading the future of culture. We say it right there on our website. That's part of what we want to do, is investing in culture. But how can you invest in culture if you're not actually involving the culture? You're just saying it, you know what I mean? And selling things to people. So you brought up a great point too. And I know we're probably going to wrap soon, but I just wanted to tell you, that's the thing about, there's a lot of venture studios and venture capitalists coming into the space, some big dogs that we are like a grain of sand compared to these guys, some of the big dogs. But what's to be mindful of is they're coming in and they have one objective, and they need to return the fund. And some of them might be 50, 100x. They have a goal. It's a number, it's math. So they're saying, okay, we're going to get in now because we know that we can go in here and it's all underpriced assets. If they believe in the future of Web3, they know that right now they can go in and fund a ton of startups and a ton of things and get their hands all across the culture. But remember, they're not suddenly going from Web2 mindset to Web3. They didn't suddenly wake up and go, you know what? I want to go change the world, and I want to help bring community, and I want to come, I want to make sure we're really serving the people. It's the same mindset. And so the dangers of that is that we're going to have the same gatekeepers, right? So what we want to do is we want to come in with, yes, the experience of being in venture deals, the experience of how that should look, and but with the heart and the mindset of Web3. So we're always being mindful of what's going to serve the culture, what's going to serve the people. Let's involve the people. Let's be collaborative. Let's have discussions and iterate and tweak and play together, rather than this little closed group of people with money that are going to buy things that we think are going to, scale over time. There's nothing wrong with that, but we also need some other types of investors in the space that care about the actual culture. So just wanted to put that out there.
No, that's super cool. Well, thank you guys so much for your time. What's happening next? Is there an IRL? Is there a event that you guys are gonna be at? What's any alpha that you can drop?
Yeah. So September 9th in LA, we're gonna have the Rollin' 909 Day. It'll be a celebration. The 909 drum machine is more attributed to like dance and house music. So we're bringing some legendary house DJs to a space in LA, and we'll have a panel on Web3 music and gaming. We got some awesome panelists coming from top of the food chain in the space, Web3, gaming, music, to have a discussion on it and learn about some of the things they're doing to experiment and move the space forward. We'll have a party. We're thinking of having a little gaming competition and streaming that live, maybe do some Mario Kart battles or something fun. So that'll be a good time to hang out and meet some folks in the space. And then we'll be dropping our Rollin' Lifestyle TR808 NFT collection, and that'll happen on that day as well. We'll be celebrating, and we'll drop it a few days before. So to find out about it, make sure you follow Bad People Online on Twitter. and then Roland Lifestyle on Twitter as well. Those are the two places where you're going to hear what's coming.
Cool. Yeah, I'll put those links down below so that people can find them.
Okay.
And I'll, do my best to make my way down there. I should be down there September, but oh man, staying to the 9th, that's gonna be tough.
Oh man, if you're here, let me know. You got full VIP, and we'll have some fun. I'd love to meet you in person.
Well, I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for your time. I definitely want to do a follow-up a little bit down the road to see, how we're doing, if we're coming out with that California token.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll be in talks. We'll be in talks for sure.
Yeah.
Thank
Cool,
you
guys.
for having us, man. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Peace.
Peace.